We're live. We're live, baby. What do you want to talk about today? I got some time on my lunch break. Got some time and figured we'd go live real quick. Let's just see, what's happening out in the world. I don't know. Did I not set this up right? I don't know if I set this up right. If you're here in the chat, let me know. Again, just kind of trying to sneak this in on my lunch break. Oh, yes. Shayla's here. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that the chat is good. We heckin' did it. Yes. If in case you're wondering why I'm live, I usually really only go live when big stuff is going down these days. I should probably do this more often. It's always a lot of fun. But Carlos Correa and the Minnesota Twins are finalizing a 6-year, $200 million contract. Sources tell ESPN and Jeff Passan. Oh my goodness. And again, I've been saying this kind of frequently this offseason. I was tired of this. And again, we should say, okay, the Giants felt like they were here at one point. The Mets felt like they were here at one point. So let's not assume anything is completed with Carlos Correa. I do have to say it's pending physical. And there's a lot of details coming out as we go here. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to stay live for too long, but I just wanted to get this reaction out. Very excited. If you've been, following along with my reactions, I know a lot of people, especially on YouTube here, much less on Twitter, but on YouTube, a lot of my YouTube viewers were pretty lukewarm on Carlos Correa and pretty concerned about offering him such a long-term contract. And clearly, all the stuff with the physicals definitely doesn't make you feel any better about offering a guy a long-term contract, hearing that there are some concerns about physicals. But my kind of line is, I don't know. I don't know what the x-rays look like. I don't know. My thing is, just from a layman's standpoint, is like, well, this guy's never had an injured list stint due to that surgery, due to that plate. In his entire major league career, this is something that happened as a prospect, and he had that plate put in. If there is some kind of a concern, man, why hasn't it come up? Why hasn't it come up until now? It just seems very strange. But obviously, two teams were concerned enough with it that there's clearly something there. I'm not going to try to make it sound like I know more than these medical professionals who had the actual imaging. Certainly not going to say that, but personally, I'm not really concerned about it. This guy's been fairly durable, and especially, on a Twins standpoint. And Shayla makes a great point. This deal that is being reported, again, I don't know what specifics. I imagine there's going to be all sorts of details. The original Passan tweet does mention that the deal has a vesting option. It can max out at 270. So there's going to be kind of some little options. I'm guessing some things that can be triggered. But 6 years, I mean, that is more, what we've seen traditionally. Obviously the last couple of years, especially this offseason, the contracts have kind of been blowing up, and we're seeing these 10-year, 13-year contracts for some of these guys. And Carlos is one of the younger free agents. He's hit free agency at a pretty young age. Making his major league debut so young allowed him to do that. So he's really young for free agents. You would think, if anybody's getting one of these, double-digit year contracts, he would make sense. If this goes, again, I'm almost trying to temper my enthusiasm here because, again, the Giants thought they had this guy signed. The Mets thought they had this guy signed at one point. It's pending physical, and we know with Carlos Correa this offseason that has been a huge tipping point. But, you're telling me that it's 6-year, $200 million guaranteed. I think that sounds like a tremendous deal for the Minnesota Twins. And comments coming in, I'll try to keep up on them as best I can, but absolutely, if you guys talk amongst yourselves, get some good conversation going, that's another big reason why, I like to go live in these situations is so we can kind of all react to things together, not just me talking at you guys all the time. Yeah, Giants were going to give him 13,350. The Mets were going to go 12,315. So if the Twins get him at 6.2, I mean, that is a huge discount. Apparently, the Dior store does have a clearance section. Or someone commented on one of my videos about a month ago, I think it was. I don't remember who it was, but it was a great comment. Apparently there's a scratch and dent section at Dior. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, the thing too is, like, considering all the things with the Twins, is maybe things would be different. Maybe I'd feel differently if Royce Lewis had stayed healthy and was ready to take over. But, there's a lot of questions about that knee. There were questions about his ability to stick at shortstop, and I don't know that those completely got addressed. He looked great. He looked fantastic last year. There is a chance that Royce Lewis might have been a shortstop for a big-time impact shortstop. But I think there was enough questions in this organization at the position that it made sense to sign someone to a long-term contract. I wasn't necessarily really beholden to that needing to be Carlos Correa. As things kind of developed, started to talk about some of the other options at shortstop. I thought there was a real option that they might land Bogarts, but San Diego just was really in on him. And then when it came down, when it appeared to come down to Swanson, I was still really thinking the Twins, it would make a lot of sense for them to sign him. Because, again, I think there's enough questions at shortstop. I don't think Brooks Lee's really a shortstop. Long-term, I think he's going to be better suited at third base. I think Austin Martin is better suited at other positions. So this makes so much sense. It really does. I know a lot of people were underwhelmed with Correa last year to a certain degree, given how much he made. Him at 6 years, $200 million guaranteed is really reasonable. It is. And, if we want the Twins to start spending money, if we want this team to start being taken seriously, this is the kind of signing that can signal to the rest of baseball, that can signal to agents, that can signal to players, that can signal to free agents. Listen, this is a good place to be. You want to come here. This is a team that's ready to invest more. This is a team that's ready to spend money. Look at the Correa contract. This is a team that's trying to win. Look at the Correa contract. This is a team that takes care of guys. Look at what happened to Correa when he left and he tried to sign with the Giants and he tried to sign with the Mets. How'd that go for him? Should he probably have just tried to stay here in the first place and taken the 285 that was reported that the Twins were initially offering? Yes, clearly, if this is how it goes down, if this signing goes in, clearly Carlos Correa has been bitten by not wanting to stay here, which is kind of the funny, I think, to me, it's the funniest part of this whole thing. It's the funniest part of this whole thing, if this is how it goes down. That Carlos Correa would have made more money if he prioritized staying in Minnesota, which that would just be hilarious. And I get it. I get it to some degree. Other teams were offering way more money. Maybe there were other things that, you find more attractive about living in San Francisco, beautiful place, potentially living in and working in New York. Pretty cool place itself. Pretty great place to kind of establish yourself there. But again, I really do think this goes far beyond just Carlos Correa, the player. I think this could be really a kind of a defining signing for obviously this front office, for potentially, the new kind of infrastructure of ownership, which like Jim is still around, but Joe is stepping, we're still not really sure how those things are all going to work out. Who's the top third baseman prospect now? Well, Miranda is going to definitely get the first crack at taking that position long term. But if it turns out that he can't stick at third base, it's going to be a pretty quick transition to Brooks Lee if that's the way it goes. And then maybe Miranda goes back to first base, whatever. But that's sort of a good, that people think about the domino effect of a signing like this in kind of the negative term that it sort of clogs shortstop. But then you can think of, it's kind of fun to think of the other domino effect of like, oh, okay, well, shortstop's covered. Well, now we got to find a place for Brooks Lee, well, third base. And then you can think, oh, wait, if Jose Miranda doesn't stick at third base, now it's not such a kind of a potentially disastrous situation where it's like, ooh, we were kind of thinking this guy could play third for 4 years. and now we're not really sure. To where, oh, we'll just put this guy there, and then he can move across the diamond. Kind of same with like whenever Royce Lewis gets healthy, he can play whenever. Obviously, he'll be able to be depth at shortstop behind Correa. He'll be able to be depth at center field behind Buxton. And we know as Twins fans as good as anybody how many injuries there are, how many games are lost due to injuries, how much extra depth you need. So that was another reason why I thought it was kind of interesting that some Twins fans were kind of against clogging shortstop for 6 years plus potentially, or just investing in a bat for that long. And they don't really have any big long-term contracts. The Buxton contract is very reasonable. And beyond that, I think the only guy who's under a guaranteed contract beyond this upcoming season is now Christian Vasquez. So they should have plenty of payroll flexibility still, even with this deal done. Should not be much of a concern in terms of payroll. And you would expect, we've all been hoping for the Twins to keep going up in payroll. So hopefully whatever the number is for Correa, they bump it up. That the overall pay, that he's not eating that whole chunk out of the current payroll, that they're bumping the payroll out. And so that fits his number in a little bit better. But this front office, if they've done anything well, it is putting them in a situation to where they can afford a long-term contract like this. They've been very careful to not get into these type of deals. Because when they go poorly, they can suck. It can really sink a team. It can really be harmful for the payroll. But they've put themselves in a great position to fit this into a payroll without saying like, okay, and now we can't do anything else. We got this big old contract over here, and since we got that big contract, we can't do anything else. No, the Twins are going to be able to do what they usually do. I'm not saying we're going to see them do this year after year. They're going to sign somebody to this kind of a contract. They're going to be able to fit what they usually do around this contract, which is supplement. I think they're going to continue to do that. Again, lots of questions coming in on kind of the domino effect. Of course, there was already kind of a logjam at second base. There's already a logjam in the outfield. But a lot of these guys haven't really established themselves enough to where you're not going to want to sign like a superstar guy. And then in addition to, there's all the stuff, which I never know how much to buy and how much not. There's all the stuff about Correa being such a great clubhouse influence, being such a, on multiple levels, such a bridge from basically the scouting department and the coaching staff to the clubhouse. And that stuff is only going to get stronger the more roots he has here, It was impressive to see him. It was impressive to see him come in and take such a leadership, and take that on and be so willing to do that on basically a 1-year contract in the first place. Now that he's going to have roots here, imagine how much more that's going to develop. And I think, it's going to be cool to see him really get more of a relationship with some of the players. Mentioning Jose Miranda, he and Miranda clearly really have a bond. That's for sure. And there's certainly other guys. We saw him FaceTiming with guys at the uniform reveal. So, it was clear he really put down some ties with these players, even if it maybe wasn't as hot on the organization as he played up to be at times, maybe. But he certainly made some good relationships. But again, so just to recap, in case you missed it, Jeff Passan, of ESPN, reporting that the Twins and Correa are finalizing a 6-year, $200 million contract that has a vesting option that can max out at $270 million. Again, though, just want to cannot stress enough, the Giants were here, the Mets were here. It is pending physical. So the never-ending saga will still continue, but, there shouldn't be many surprises. The Twins they do basically like an exit physical. It's not super comprehensive, but they gave him a look over in October. So, they shouldn't be surprised by anything. We shall see. Thanks for checking this out. We'll talk about this plenty later, but wanted to get on here live. Sorry if there's any audio or visual issues. Again, just really throwing this together last minute. Thanks for checking this out. Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk again soon.